A few weeks ago, I was invited to come down south to the communities along the Gaza border with Yudit Tayal, who is one of the pioneers who founded the first responders units in the civilian communities to work together with the IDF to help defend and protect the Jewish communities in high-risk areas. While we were down there, we got to meet Chaim. He's one of the first responders in his community just outside the Gaza border, helping defend the communities there and to deal with all the security threats in his region. Afterwards, we got to meet Ilan, which is Chaim's boss. He's the head of the security of all the Eshkol region and all the first responders under him in that whole region. So this is what Ilan had to say as we interviewed him to ask him about the reality here in the south.
We're sitting behind Kisufim, or in front of Kisufim.
It's a kibbutz?
It's a kibbutz, around 2 kilometers away from the border. You can see right over here. Actually, on a nice day, if we went a bit to our left, we can actually see the sea, the Mediterranean. All the houses there are the outskirts of, it's actually Deir Balach, outskirts of Khan Yunis. You can also see one of the cranes working to do the new obstacle. Also behind us, there are also cranes there that are dealing with the new obstacle.
So obstacle, we're talking about, it's a new security barrier to prevent infiltration.
Well, it's 2 kinds of infiltration. First, underground.
Yeah.
So
So tunnels.
So this obstacle will be concrete and all different things, many meters below the ground, and of course above ground, a much better fence that we have at the moment, more or less what we have between Rafiah and Eilat, the border with Egypt,
Right.
And now what they're also building on the northern border. So it's a much well done what they're using now. It's a different concept of a fence, and of also it's not only the fence, it's what they putting here with with cameras, with sensors, and
Right. So in contrast to what we're seeing today, is with the Gazans rushing the fence, cutting it, damaging it, and being able to make it into Israel.
Yeah.
So this particular security
will
barrier
make it much harder.
will make it practically impossible for them to come to keep doing this.
To keep doing it will be impossible because you can't cut it with regular cutters.
So what are the challenges for you? Because you guys are on the front lines of defending this border. I mean, you have soldiers that come here, but they just come for a few months. They're in, they're out. They don't know this area like you do. I mean, you're here 24/7, 365 days out of the year.
So
and your job really is to cater to the military that comes in here, to give them a picture of what's going on, to better understand the area, and to basically lead the fighting to defend the border.
Well, whatever you said is okay. Not really to lead the fighting, but first of all, the connection between the Ravshatzim and the municipality, the security side of the municipality, it's a very intimate relation. Because of what you said now, we do know this area, we know how to help, we know to give a lot of information. There is nothing that happens in this area that we're not involved. Nothing. And also the opposite. Anything that happens on the civilian side in this area, the army is involved because we inform them. So it's really some kind of Brit
cooperation.
Really a cooperation, because otherwise it's not going to work out. What's been happening in the last since Protective Edge? First of all,
which is what years?
2014. I won't go back, but Protective Edge was
The last big operation on the Gaza Strip.
big operation that it was very significant for the population here in the envelope and in Eshkol. Eshkol, first of all, is 60% of the whole of the envelope of Gaza. 52 days, 51 days, and before and after, it was very hard for the population. And since then, we've found, I think, 11 tunnels that have been
After the
operation.
the operation. Yeah.
After the operation, the last tunnel was sealed 3-4 days ago. That tunnel only was about 300 meters that infiltrated Israel, but we have tunnels not far from here that were 800, 900 meters in Israel, and very close to certain kibbutzim, maybe also 800, 900 meters. So once a group of Nukhba, which is the special unit of the Palestinians, the Hamas, it doesn't take too long to get to a kibbutz.
And take care of the terrorist attack.
For a terrorist attack. And of course, they're also looking for soldiers. I think the main thing that we understand, they want to kidnap. If it's dead, first of all, it's alive, it's better. If it's dead, it's also okay. But that will be their victory sign at the beginning of any conflict.
A good way to put this then is Israel's value for human life is in a way our Achilles heel as far as they understand it.
Yes.
That because we value every soul that is taken into captivity,
Yes.
and that we're willing to do anything to get them back.
Exactly.
That's why it's such a big victory for them, really.
Yes. They what we see, that if they are able not to slaughter is something else. They also want to slaughter, but if they bring out or bring back into Gaza, dead or alive, a soldier, a civilian, they have ready in their eyes won the conflict that will come an hour later. You can also have not only the tunnels, mortars, but all of a sudden, with no intelligence or no thinking that something will happen, all of a sudden you have the 15 seconds, you hear the sirens go.
So you have 15 seconds the second you hear the siren go off to reach safety.
Yes. You'll see, you go into any kibbutz, any mushav, on the main roads up to the 7 kilometers, you'll see shelters scattered. Every bus station in every kibbutz and mushav, there's a shelter. Every synagogue, and some of the synagogues don't have shelters. We will be finishing it very soon. I'm dealing with it now. Schools, that's an interesting thing. We built 8 years ago the first school in Israel that was 100% bomb-proof. So everyone from grade 1 to grade 12, all our kids will be under bomb shelter. 100% bomb shelter.
How do you deal with the reality that the civilians have to traumatically, emotionally live through this? I mean, it's one thing for me to know my building's secure, but I still know that rockets are being fired at me. I still know that, for example, if I'm working as a father with children, I'm working in my job, I hear the siren go off on my phone, right? And I know that's my district. My children are under fire right now. I don't know if they're outside playing or if they're in the armed, secured buildings. How do you deal with that?
So first of all,
reality? That must be a big factor with what you have to deal with.
That's a factor that we deal daily. Unfortunately, we've already have 18 years of experience since 2000 when it started the firing of the missiles, and from 2005, after the evacuation of Gaza, it just went up and up and up until 2008 when we had
it
the
actually
first
got
one.
worse after the pullout from Gaza.
Yes,
correct?
Yes, and all that we thought that once we evacuate or tear down the civilians in Gaza, the Israeli civilians in Gaza, it will be quiet. They have their own land,
autonomy.
They have their own autonomy. But we realize now, and I think everyone should realize, That's not what they want. They want to come here, they want to take over Israel, they want to slaughter the Jews, they want to kick out the Jews. And when someone will realize that, maybe things will change.
When we realize that basically they want the whole of the land, not just
Yes.
a portion of it, not just
Yeah.
an autonomy of Palestinian control for
Exactly.
themselves,
Yeah.
without any military occupation, without any Jewish settlements within
Yes.
their area.
Yes.
So-called the perfect world is Gaza right now.
Yes.
That's the perfect world if we follow what the media is telling us, what the politicians are telling us, what the Europeans are telling us. Here's what they want. They just want to be themselves. Well, they are to themselves in the Gaza Strip, and yet it's still
No.
not what they want
No,
apparently.
it's not what
Yeah.
what they want at all. So maybe the Europeans will finally understand that this land, that's what they want, and this land they can't have. And until they don't get this land, I don't believe that there will ever be peace with Gaza. They're getting more extreme and more extreme. When the world will understand that Arab states are not democracy, especially around us, maybe things will change. But anyway,
Yeah.
we deal with resilience every day, and people are, like I said, 18 years are experienced, unfortunately,
Yeah.
and that our children are experienced also, unfortunately. We have a lot of our resilience.
Psychological,
it's the biggest
support.
unit in the municipality,
Uh-huh.
and they deal with it with many aspects and problems daily.
With post-trauma.
With post-trauma.
Yeah.
You know, once they say that
And
once
these are children that are having
children
post-trauma.
talking here between around 40%, 40,
dealing
50%
with the
that are
children.
dealing, and they're getting help from our resilience groups. But also 40 to 50% is
Way too high. Unacceptable.
unacceptable.
No child should have to grow up with that.
No, when you have a incident or conflict, they say if the conflict now stops, if all of a sudden, I don't know, peace comes, it will take 5 years to get the civilian population to calm them down. You'll still have to treat problems that happen today for the next 5 years. If in those 5 years it has been 100% quiet, then you can start from scratch. But you still need those 5 years. And of course, what you said, someone that physically was hurt mentally, that affects. But if you want to stop it takes 5 years.
So with these fire kites, I mean, this is a completely different reality. It's not rockets where you have the Iron Dome. It's not infiltration where you engage them and take them out. I mean, right now, I mean,
Yeah.
it could be landing one right here or
Yeah.
in a community or whatever.
Especially when now you can feel the wind.
And yeah, exactly.
You
You
can
feel the
feel the
drift, and they take advantage of that. Is there really no solution to? I mean, there has to be something you can do to help defend the skies, so to speak.
First of all, there's a few things. The kites, the actual kites, have really gone down because the army has found a couple of solutions, do damage or cut them down.
Sure. They
very
found a
close to-
solution.
There's a couple of solutions. The balloons, which is more tricky. First of all, they go very high. First of all, they mainly use condoms, very hard to see.
Okay.
And they also have solutions for that, but it's not 100%. It's the
Right.
same like the Iron Dome. The Iron Dome has also been upgraded all the time, but it's never 100%. So we do have a lot, even though that there is a lot of work in the army, there are solutions. We still have many balloons coming over. You can see in the last 6 months, they are learning, they are upgrading from the fire balloons to explosive balloons.
What is an explosive balloon?
Explosive balloons can, first of all, either have a hand grenade or some kind of
Makeshift,
dynamite or mixture of gunpowder and things.
Yeah.
Or what they like using is flares.
Flares. Yeah.
Flares that blow up. They have some kind of mechanism, and it comes. It won't do too much damage, but if you hold it,
Or come near it.
you can lose your fingers, you can lose your hand.
Sure.
So you can see that they're getting better and more knowledge. And at the moment, we've had over 2,000 fires in the last 6 months.
2,000 fires.
Yeah, a lot, and that doesn't mean that only 2,000 balloons have landed.
Sure.
Many more have landed, but in the last 3 months, as you can see, our fields are clean because we are getting ready for winter crops.
Right.
And most of the forests and nature have been burnt,
Right.
about 9,000 acres
9,000 acres.
in the last 6 months.
Which a lot of that is also nature reserve.
Nature, forest, agricultural,
Animals.
Animals in a lot of places. A
Rare
lot
species,
yes,
I understand as well.
Dead. Everything's dead. Forest, we don't know the amount. We know about 2,000 acres, 2,500 were burnt. But now we want to see, before we plant new forest, I think the forest people want to wait maybe at least a year to see what's going to come out.
Right.
And then I think we'll start replanting all our forests in this area.
Yeah.
Like I said, there are solutions, but we also
But
have
we're
to
talking
be
about billions of dollars worth of damage at least.
yes.
I mean, you can't even. The
Forests-
numbers are way out there. It's
Forests, you
It's
can't.
not a small deal.
Yeah, but forests you also can't. It's got nothing to do with money. It's got to do with
Correct.
with life and nature. That on the other side do not care how much they're burning here and what it doesn't mean anything to them. And for us as Israelis and Jews, it means a lot. Tremendously.
Because you love the land.
Yes, we love the land, we love the nature, we love the forests. We're surrounded by forests. You can see everything is not green. It's all brown or black or different colors. So and that's also why I needed the Rav Shatzim to be first responders, because the actual firefighters were fighting fires, and then there were fires. Sometimes we got to 20 fires in this area. Without the Rav Shatzim, no one can control it. So there's a very good connection. Rav Shatzim, firefighters from the forests, the army. The army actually took control of the whole operation, which is almost every day, although the fires have gone down. But I always think with them, things that are going down are going to come up sooner or later. And
probably they'll come up with some other solution.
Definitely.
Most likely.
I'm sure they are thinking and they are doing. The obstacle that we're spending billions is excellent, and we really need it. But it's not the end of the solution and the conflict.
Yeah, the new security barrier. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
It's not that's not the only problem we have. And I think the only problem is that they want to annihilate us and take over land. That's the problem. And
until you fix that,
yeah.
It's like putting a band-aid on a gaping wound.
Yeah, if they put down their weapons, that area can be paradise. It can be Tripoli number 2, but they're stupid. They're just stupid, and they think they're going to break us. They think we're going to leave, like we have somewhere to go.
Right.
So they are so mistaken. And besides looking after their own people by putting down their weapons, they are trying to do other things, and I just don't understand it. Through Protective Edge, which was 52 days that we were bombarded, just in Eshkol region, there were over 1,500 missiles. In Israel, 4,800. if you go back and see how many times Israel closed the crossing in Kerem Shalom, maybe 2-3 times. That's it.
During wartime.
During wartime. It's the same that Trump says, I give money, $500 million or more a year, and they're always talking badly about America. I'm giving the money, and they are talking bad, and they don't want to negotiate. They want to sit. American is the enemy, and I'm giving $500 million a year.
Yeah.
So finally, president with a bit of sechel stopped.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing.
So he cut off the funding because he basically is saying logically, why should I give him money if they're going to argue and do nothing with it?
Yeah.
Except build terror tunnels.
And it's the same. We know cement, 140 trucks of cement go a day. 440, I'm not talking about the last 3-4 months has gone down, but actually in the last 2 weeks it went up.
Yeah.
In the last 2 weeks that we've had so much problems here, 1,000 trucks are going into Gaza with tens of trucks of cement and stones and metal
From Israel.
From Israel. And that's every day in the last couple of years.
So you supply them with the supplies, which then goes into
to the tunnels.
terror tunnels.
Not only that, they take the sand, which is also our sand, because they come over the border. So it's all Israeli made. You actually can say all the tunnels that are built and that are infiltrating Israel are all Israeli made, all Israeli products, cement, water that we supply, or maybe they use their own sewage water, I don't know, and stones and everything.
Israeli made, Palestinian labor.
Exactly. So
so I understand that per tunnel, more or less, because of course some are longer or shorter, but basically you could, instead of building the terror tunnel, you could build an equivalent to like 300 homes, is one stat that I saw. Is that correct?
I don't know the amount, but it's tens of millions of dollars.
They could go into actual building homes,
schools,
a new living for themselves,
everything.
Schools, infrastructure. How about a water plant, electric plant, businesses, entrepreneurial, build yourself, right? I mean, they're on the coast. They could actually have a port city if they wanted to, if they had a dream to,
yes,
and export goods from Gaza.
In 2006, we finished building an airport in Gaza, in Rafah. In 2008, we blew it up. Why? Instead of using it, they were putting snipers on the tower, and the snipers were shooting into the kibbutzim. So we blew it up. So it seems that you can't win here because we're not on the same level of thinking, so that's why it's so complicated. Also, the real person that is stopping the electricity and the water is not Israel. Give us money, the electricity, you'll have much more. It's Abu Mazen. The money is coming to Abu Mazen from all over the world, and he has decided to stop giving salaries. He has decided to give a certain amount only for electricity. He has decided same with water. So it's actually
so
the
Abu
PLO
Mazen even controls what happens in the Gaza Strip.
100%.
Really?
100%.
So that's probably why Hamas hates the Fatah.
Yes, and that's two organizations.
Because they realize that he's in control of the spout, so to speak.
Yeah, and don't forget, we're talking about two organizations in the Arab world, in the Arab Palestinian world. There are maybe about 100 factions. Yeah. And so they hate Abu Mazen. They're putting pressure on Israel that they want us to put pressure on Abu Mazen to release funds.
Right.
And those funds are paid for terrorists that are in jails, terrorists that have been killed.
Who carry out terrorist attacks.
And their families are getting paid from that money also.
Yeah.
So...
and this is something that's hard for Israel to compete with, is talking about the payment for terrorism. I understand if you're in the Gaza Strip or in Yehuda and Shomron there, under PA control area, you get a salary of roughly $200 a month. Whereas if they were to work in an Israeli factory or an Israeli business, they get like $2,000 a month. So like
even more because here our government is so
modestly,
strict.
modestly, yeah. So you get about 10 times basically of what you would if you were to work, if you were to stay
Exactly.
in, which is what drives Palestinians to work in Israeli territory area, right?
Yes.
And we have over what 200,000 a day that come into Israel and go back.
Mainly from Judea and Samaria, but I don't know how much because here there's here from Gaza in the good times,
Yes,
150,000 were working.
would come out, yeah.
Yeah.
And so, okay, so that's a very big number, but the problem is you still have a problem because even though you pay them roughly, let's say, 10 times more than they would if they were going to work at the no work
Yes.
that there is in the Gaza Strip or in Yehuda and Shomron, still you can't compete with what they get paid for carrying out terrorist attack.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Because what the terrorists will pay them is even more
Yes.
than that,
And it also
and for a lifetime.
a lifetime. That's
Yeah.
that's a lifetime.
That's perfect. You don't have to work. Just do one terrorist attack and your family's good for the rest of your life.
Yes, and also if someone's in jail,
All right.
his family gets also
Even more.
they get from. It's also funny, you get you become a convict, you're in jail, and you get money from the Israeli government also.
And education,
Everything.
full health care.
Yes, they become lawyers, and whatever,
Yeah,
and they get a salary,
yeah.
and Abu Mazen gives the salary to the family. That's how it works.
So technically, this is the only place in the world where crime actually pays.
Yes. Violent crime.
Violent crime. Within a few weeks of filming this interview, the Gaza border erupted, with the Hamas firing over 400 rockets and mortars towards the civilians living along the south. This is the reality that the people in the south have to live with on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a yearly basis, without having a guarantee or any assurance of safety and security in the south.